it's a lot of fun for me.
Dude, being a nerd's cool nowadays.
I know,
Being
right?
a nerd is like...
Nerds run the world,
Yeah.
man. We're the ones running shit behind the scenes.
Nerds.
I know. I'll like jump into my Discord with my buddies and be like, "What's up, nerds?" Just like, I don't know, man. It's used to be more of a negative term than it is now. It's kind of like, oh,
Well, I mean,
oh shit, I got to grab knives.
you're a nerd, a self-described nerd, and I guess I'm a geek. Geek, comic book geek, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember you seeing my art and you're like, "Oh man, you should do some like comic books or superhero stuff."
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, maybe. I basically did a mushroom since then.
There we go.
Yeah.
Have you like what kind of mushrooms have you tried? Have you tried penis heavy?
Oh yeah, I've done like some magic mushrooms. I don't know about kinds, but I also grew magic mushrooms once. That was fun.
Because penis envy is the bomb.
I never really felt like a difference between the I guess genetics. You know what I mean?
Well, these ones are penis envy is a lot more concentrated. Like,
Oh, okay.
It's honestly like people. I've never done LSD,
Yeah.
but people who have say it's as close as you can get without doing LSD.
I've done LSD and oh man, yeah, it was quite the time.
Yeah.
I remember we were like playing Super Smash Bros at my buddy's place.
Yeah.
And I was like looking around, like just tripping out on the wall, and then I was like, oh man, I'm playing a game. I should probably. I'm probably doing terrible. And I look, and we're all kicking ass. Like I'm still kicking ass, but I'm looking over here like, whoa. Like it was just like, how does that even happen?
For the first time, one of the first times I did mushrooms by myself, I was playing Assassin's Creed.
Oh, nice.
Odyssey, I guess it is. The one where he's in Greece.
Sure. I don't know.
And I was just cracking myself up. I was playing, I was talking to the screen and recording it because I thought this was hilarious. I'm like, man, I should do a YouTube channel where I'm just high on mushrooms playing video games. Then I looked it up and somebody already has one. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not it.
It was probably several. Well, hey, let me pray. Dear God, thank you for this day and this awesome food that you've put before us. And yeah, would you just bless this food to our bodies and our conversation this evening? In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The whole time it's been recording?
Just since I walked over there. So.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Just since we walked
Well,
over
cheers.
there. Yeah. Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Again, it's awesome to have you.
Hey. Looks good.
Yeah, should be pretty delicious.
When you said slaw, I was already in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, it's prepared coleslaw. Because I'm not a big coleslaw fan, but this isn't like coleslaw to me.
Yeah,
That's
it's just like shredded.
shredded salad.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, perfectly fine, especially when it's not coleslaw dressing.
Yeah.
Coleslaw dressing.
I'm the same way, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, coleslaw, you. But, yeah, dig in.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was saying that staying at my in-laws just because of I got a new job right now. And it just makes sense. Driving out to La Brokery and back every day, not going to be economic financially.
Yeah, and you're saying they're out in
So-
Mexico anyways, so you're kind of house sitting,
Mm-hmm.
doing double duty.
Yeah, that way they don't have to really worry about, I don't know, their lines freezing up and stuff like that. Or if somebody actually wants to ransack their place, they end up usually paying their, not their son-in-law, but their son-in-law's brother to come check up on the house.
Okay.
No. So
What are you doing for work now?
I'm working for a construction company called Stuart Marks Construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Nice.
yeah, right now we're just installing doors in a big apartment complex. Yeah, it's just lucky. Purely, well, I guess blessed would be the way to say it, because it's just like through the connections that I've made that people reached out to me to see if I wanted to work there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Very fortunate.
I'm sure it's like not like you had to take school, I guess, to be in CN as an engineer.
Yeah, locomotive engineer. You go through. First, you hire on as a conductor trainee, and then you go through about 8 weeks of class, and then they put you. You do a couple of like a week or so of hands-on practical training just in a controlled yard, and then eventually you end up doing on-the-job training and following a qualified conductor, and you work as a conductor once you qualify, and when your turn and seniority comes up to be trained as an engineer, you get to go train as an engineer, and you become it's really not like some railways where you hire on to be an engineer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because I guess it's not like they do a lot of the training and there is prerequisites, but it's not like you need an engineering degree from university. No. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Because I know my buddy who is an engineer, but they usually do like consulting or they don't become train operators, I guess.
Yeah, when people say, "Oh, you're an engineer," I said, "Well, let me break it down for you. I drive trains." Yeah, I'm not a real engineer.
Push the go button and the stop button.
Sort of.
I'm sure it's a lot more complex than that, but
well,
you don't have to steer, so.
That's what everybody says, but when you think about it, even when you're driving a car, is steering really the big concern? It's stopping.
Yeah, yeah. That's your only like number one thing that you really need to pay attention for is when to stop at the right time.
Yeah, and when you're running a train, I liken it to thinking 3 intersections or 4 intersections ahead of where you are right now. Like, so if you're going southbound on Lagimodier and you hit the perimeter, you got to think how you're going to stop come Regent.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, because you can't, that's the thing about a train is it does not stop fast.
Nope. Nope. And so yeah, you have to use what they call forward planning, and that includes thinking about the grade, so the ups and downs of the terrain that you're on, what kind of train you're operating, because they're not all the same. Like you have some trains that have 1 locomotive, and then you have some that have several.
Oh wow.
And some are distributed throughout the train, which you control remotely from the head end engine. And some trains you have a complete consist of what we call autos. And there's them, and these lumber cars are some of the worst. Because there's a lot of slack between each car.
Oh, okay.
So when you have a train that's tight and doesn't have a lot of slack, you can handle that train a little bit less carefully, or I wouldn't say less carefully. You can treat it harsher,
right,
than you can with a train like a full auto or full lumber car train, because of the amount of slack that's there. You have to stretch it out slower.
Right. Yeah, or else you could damage things, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you pull apart, knuckles come apart, other things come apart. So you have to think a little bit further in advance.
That's cool. Seems like it'd be a pretty engaging job.
It can be.
And kind of cool even when you're just like cruising through some of the terrain and just like the scenic beauty of it.
Yeah, there's on the run I was doing to Rivers, there's an area called Firdale, and it's got a little bit of a valley to it. But when you go past Rivers, there's the La Quapelle Valley, and it's like you look in there, and the first thought I had was, oh, there's dinosaur bones in there, definitely.
Oh yeah,
it's just it's pretty cool.
That'd be.
And you go over a bridge, like a big bridge. So if you don't like heights, it's not for you.
Just close your eyes for that part of it.
Yep. This is really good, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's turned out pretty good. Yeah,
What kind of cut was it?
I think it was sirloin steak as well,
Mhm,
kind of
mhm.
what you brought. Yeah.
Top sirloin's good to go too.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what it was. Yeah, it's not bad for just pan fried. I'd like to get a barbecue coming up in the new year, but
Hmm. You know what though? Like, there's some really good ways to do pan fry, especially for steaks.
hmm
It's all about just getting that internal temperature and then searing it. Joe Rogan does that on his cast iron pan. Just get it really, really, really hot. The only problem is smoke.
yeah,
That's the
okay.
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's not a problem for him when he was living, and probably still now in Texas, but in California, you just do everything outside.
Mm. Yeah, true enough, and I'm sure he would have like a kitchen outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it turned out pretty good. Mostly just salt and pepper and a little bit of rosemary. Or no, like Italian seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Salt and pepper, Italian seasoning, and a little bit of Worcestershire.
Could you say it right?
Yeah, Worcestershire. Yeah, not Worcestershire.
I'll say Benedict Cumberbatch.
It's like Westminster. People
West-
always say
oh, yeah.
Westminster.
Or Lloydminster at Lloydminster.
Mm.
I think it's Lloydminster, is it not? Alberta? Saskatchewan?
That one I don't know. I'm going to claim ignorance on that one. 'Cause, I just know the streets around here a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So I actually lived on Gertrude.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I want to say back in 2007. Was it 2007?
Was it like close to this side or was it more towards Osborne?
Yeah, it was on the other side of Osborne.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, by Donald.
Yeah, yeah. That's where I was going to Rick House before, but not now.
Yeah, not now. Well, I was looking at some of their online stuff, and they have a lot of like maskless stuff. Like, I don't see any masks on their Instagram.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about going in and seeing if they were friendly, but I don't know. It's I've already kind of found a gym solution, so I'm pretty happy there.
Well, I do know there might be a place for our kind.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, I know, and I don't want to oust anyone on the
Mhm.
show, so I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, contact me for details if you need a gym and you're still a dirty heathen.
I was making that joke before, the dirty, the unclean, but we're pure blood. We'll go with that. Pure blooded.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. It's just gonna escalate so fast either way. Like I don't know. That's why somebody made a good point actually about like the term pure blood and just. I guess it's a little like I was saying one time. I was like, that's a little extreme.
It is.
It definitely is, but at the same time, it's like we're the ones who are the peaceful people who actually want liberty. So
That's the reality right there. Is we are peaceful. We've been peaceful. We want to remain peaceful. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going. You kind of look at Australia and worry.
in Austria.
In Austria, we have a friend in Austria, and she's ready for war.
Yeah. Oh man, it's rough. Like I just don't understand how people can be so dumb and forgetful of history and just be totally clueless to just like, oh man.
They're removed. Everybody's removed
Mm-hmm.
and desensitized from TV. Like to be okay with that kind of thing happening. And we were talking about it earlier today. Maybe there's people in Hollywood that have been trying to warn us about this, prepare us for this.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the funny thing last year, my wife had never seen V for Vendetta, and she's watching it, and we get to the point where they're talking about releasing a virus to control the population, and she's just pointing at the TV, going, that's happening right now. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why we were watching this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd never seen The Matrix before. We watched it, and she's like, I get what you mean. It's like, on one hand, I envy her not seeing it and then seeing it for the first time. I wish I could erase movies in my head so I could watch them for the first time again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's yeah, I watched Fight Club for the first time as an adult. The last time it was probably when I was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that was a good one too.
And it's relevant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like it's totally people who are out of touch with, they're overly civilized and out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
And they're out of touch with the violent like basis of our history and culture, actually.
It's hiding. It's there.
Yeah.
It's like buried deep, but it's there.
Yeah, well, and it's coming to the surface, I think, but it's like, yeah, we got so coddled, like, we're just like, oh, well, like, government would never do us any harm. It's like, no, they're pretty much the primary actors in doing harm.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that what the U.S. has claimed is the reason why they went into all these different countries, is to usurp or, take out a corrupt government in the interest of freedom, when we know that's all BS, but it's always a corrupt government.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to Fight Club, the way it resonates with me right now is like the whole job loss situation. So many people have taken the shots because they can't afford to lose this job. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And with Fight Club, there's a good quote. Was it, working jobs we hate to buy shit we don't need?
Mm-hmm.
That stuff ends up owning you. And that's kind of what has come.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a friend who also, is put on unpaid leave, sold his house. Not because he needed to, but now he's a bit more free. And
Yeah.
he's not like, oh geez, I hope they change their mind and bring me back. He's free.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's free to be himself and to go where he pleases. And yeah, I guess I kind of feel that too a little bit. Sometimes I invested heavily in my at-home setup, and sometimes I'm just like, oh, I wish I just got a laptop instead. But it's like, I don't know, I feel like I can do more with my setup than I could. I'm so much more comfortable with my setup, whereas like, but at the same time, it's like a ball and chain in a way, So I'm like, man, I should have just bought a laptop. I could have a really good laptop, but it's like, I don't know, to one way or another, it's I still feel like the call to travel, so probably have to get a laptop eventually. Well, I have one, it's just not very good.
So what are your predictions with regards to travel?
Oh man, that's a good question. Like, I honestly have no idea, but I feel like it's just ramping. Things are just starting to ramp up for this winter, and like with the moronic variant, and it's just, yeah, it's just like that next level of that we've been waiting for, and for whatever reason, like we've had a really warm season, so I don't know. I feel like it's been the governments are somehow controlling things to be in lock and step with the weather, but maybe that's wrong. But I feel like it's definitely, and it's also because obviously there's like the weather gets colder, then people get the flu, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, COVID, and I don't know. It's all just such a scam to me though, and I really hope that we could just get past this, and I hope that there's enough people in the military and the police force and stuff who are just saying no to all this garbage. But yeah, I know already people who are just like, Florida, I'm gone, like, because they just see the door closing and it's like, oh man.
On one hand, I get it, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a consideration. So hold on. Oh, nice. Because, yeah, like the grass looks real green down south, right? But for how long?
Right, and are we just fleeing our home rather than trying to fix it? Like so many other cultures do. It's just like, because it's so hopeless in other places that they just like, okay, I'm just going to go to the States instead of trying to fix my culture. Or
Well, where we're at right now, I mean, we all pretty much agree this is a form of mental assault, right? Trying to wear us down, and it's hard. It is hard.
yeah,
Especially when you have people relying on you, you know, kids, wife, and the temptation to just bolt,
yeah,
fight or flight, right?
yeah.
It's strong, and I wish we had something like the American Constitution, but like just for our defense, for our own defense. But even that, down in the States, it's not really holding up. You know, like their government officials, or especially the Democrats, are trampling all over it. I don't think a piece of paper is what we have to rely on.
Yeah, well, and I agree, but I also see like the technology of written culture and how that gave birth to law, and how like, you know what I mean? It's like culture used to just be verbal, like spoken culture,
Yeah.
but with the invention of writing comes the invention of law. Like you can codify what is law. So I think it's definitely, we need to have a cultural renaissance, like a revival of culture itself, which the whole point of the law is to protect individual political sovereignty. Like that's the entirety of the law. And then it's like, well, if you're restricting somebody's rights, it's supposed to be because you're protecting somebody else's individual political sovereignty, right? Like if you have a creek that you share with your neighbors and you poison it, well, then they're downstream. Like you might not care, but they are obviously going to care. And that's why we have to regulate our behavior, because otherwise you're infringing on their individual political sovereignty. So to me, it's all just comes back to like the core of the law is individual political sovereignty. It's that we're supposed to see each other with the crown, whether we're a king or queen in terms of politics. Like we need to be sovereigns. And so as much as the paper is important, and that's even something I was looking at today, where Colorado, they actually made a constitutional amendment to their state constitution that legalized cannabis, which goes completely against like the federal law. So to me, that's like one of the things that I think is so cool about the states, that it's just broken down, like compartmentalizing the power, where like the states can actually say no to the federal mandates. So,
Well, yeah, that would be a nice thing to have up here. We'd be having people who are supposed to be leading our province standing up to tyrants. And, you know, they had that in Alberta for about a week, and then they did a 180. Flip-flop, flip-flop.
yeah, and that's why I think that like most people are lost. It doesn't matter what political side like we're on. It's just like most people are trying to get their team into the positions of power so that they can create the right laws to fix things. When it's like we need a cultural renaissance where we actually see the value in respecting individual political sovereignty as the most important thing.
Yeah, like we can have differing opinions politically,
And
we
religiously too.
Yeah, and but we can have mutual interests that we can both agree on.
Yeah, like peace. Like peace in the negotiation between. So I don't know, it's just, that's why like my whole speech was on from October 30th is neo-feudalism. That's the way I see it. It's like, because there was like Christ died on the cross, and then there was like hundreds, if not thousands of years of studying the word to realize like what Jesus actually did, which was to make us the kings and priests of our own lives, with Christ as the head king and priest. But in terms of comparing people to people on the same playing field, there's not supposed to be any one person who can create the laws. It's just like, yeah, I remember even reading that when I was like a teenager and I was exploring law and studying this in like Canadian law, that it was like a statute or an act is only given the force of law through mutual consent of the governor and the governed. So if there's no proof of a crime, then you can just say no legally. You're like, no, I don't want to. That statute you guys made, those fancy rubber stamped papers, like they don't apply to me. And that's what like the law is supposed to be about. Is, oh, okay, well, you don't want to do what the government says. Okay, fine, great. You know, as long as you're not hurting anyone, great. But I guess that's where people will be like, well, you're hurting people by not being vaccinated. It's like, no, you don't need to take your vitamins for my vitamins to work.
It's, yeah, your bulletproof vest doesn't work if I'm not wearing mine. It's funny, I actually ran into somebody today. He'd gotten his first shot, and then for weeks he had chest pains. Finally went in, myocarditis, right? Now he has 6 months off of his work.
Oh, wow. But paid leave, right?
I think so. Hope
you
so.
got the Satan juice, we'll give you money. Then.
Yeah. But this guy was, we look at everybody and we look at them like, why don't you know what I know? Which is it's presumptive, right? It's just not realistic. And talking to like-minded individuals, they're like grabbing their hair and pulling out like, why do people not see what's going on? I'm like, because they are going about their lives and they don't realize what is at stake. They just don't realize it and don't care to look at it. They've been complacent and comfortable. And if everybody had done all the preparation and all the research that we've done, and it is research, like we are looking into things to try to understand stuff and see correlations and go through the science and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And you know, don't
separate the signal from the noise.
Well, don't question the science. That's literally how you perform science, is you question things. And like science is not a religion. It isn't. It isn't. It
shouldn't be.
Well, if it is, it's an ever-evolving religion, right? Ever-changing. So going back to this guy, like he'd never heard of ivermectin, right? He didn't know myocarditis was a risk. And he thought this was something he was going to recover from, but you know, fortunately his cardiologist sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He's like, no, your heart's scarred for life.
Wow, yeah.
Right? Because the heart is not one of those muscles or organs that repairs itself like the lungs or the liver. It's scary. Oh, hit the mic. I'm waiting on a response back, but I've asked my life insurance provider what kind of coverage I have if I was to take the shot and suffer an adverse reaction that turned out to be fatal. They don't have an answer yet.
Yeah. Well, no kidding. Nobody wants to take the blame.
I mean,
nobody wants to be liable.
no. I'd be lying if it wasn't a consideration. You know, because giving up the amount of money that I make at my job, it's hard. And especially given that we just bought a new house.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
We're gonna be able to survive, but it's just like you think about, are we? And hey, if I go, my family gets money, right? But if I go, I'm not gonna be here, right?
Yeah, is your family really is it worth it?
No.
For them to get a huge paycheck but not have dad and husband?
No, exactly. Like I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's what somebody else was saying, that he's like, oh well, like I'm just gonna get the shot, and I was like, no man, don't, like you're at risk, like, and I was like, you know the risks, and he's like, yeah I know, and I helped him get past that, and he's like, oh man, I'm like, dude, like, but he's like, well, I'm responsible for helping my family and like paying the rent and stuff, and he's like, well, the mortgage. He's like, well, if I'm insured and I get killed or whatever, then they get paid. And I'm just like, dude, like, yeah, it's of course that's where your mind goes, because you're really seriously contemplating things that are really impacting your life, right?
I mean, it's short term. You're thinking short term.
Yeah.
That's what people have to get past, and you know, I had to get past, is that short term thinking. We might suffer for like 2 years, whatever, and then we get past it. We figure something out. You know, new opportunities come as long as you just keep trying. You know, I have no problem with people praying for help, but you have to be active. You can't be idle.
I agree.
Yeah, that's why I always had a problem with, like, you know, people saying, you know, to someone they haven't talked to in years, I'm just grabbing another beer here.
Yeah, sure.
The whole, you know, prayers are with you, where we're thinking, we're praying for you, and this person needs, you know, like actual consolement, and you haven't talked to them for years. Like, talk to them. Don't just say, hey, we're thinking of you, because you're not going to think about them after you've said that like 5-10 minutes down the road.
Right. Yeah,
it's
I'll pray
over.
for you in my devotions.
Yeah,
like,
especially on Facebook. Facebook's so
disconnected.
Well, you
reality.
Decompartmentalize when you put something on Facebook, when you write something, especially in that regard.
I agree, and that's, I don't know, it's an interesting conversation in of itself, like talking about will and like God's will versus your will, and how like our will is nested within God's will, but if we think too much about that and just like put everything on God's responsibility, then we don't act.
I think God's got bigger things to worry about. That's what I think. My personal opinion is God is a parent figure, right? And what a parent wants is to see their child thrive.
Yeah.
And be kind of independent. And I picture almost as if the father holding or the mother holding the child on the bike after the training wheels are off, kind of just guiding them, right? And going to sit back and, he can ride his bike on his own.
I believe in a personal relationship with our Creator, and that it's like that's important, and that we need to rely on Him. But I often think of it as like, I don't know, it's like, again, it's a complex thing, because it's like you said, like, I agree, we need to be acting in every possible way and also praying, and like those two work together. But if you just do one without the other, like, it's not going to work out the same. So I don't know.
Well, because even just doing like the prayer, it gives you a little bit of a confirmation, right? Gives you this affirmation that somebody's got your back when you're going to go into whatever endeavor that you are.
I also think of praying as like what Jordan Peterson said a few times about how like little encouragement people need, and just how a lot of times when we're praying, it's like we all have this idea of divinity, like the purest, most awesome thing, whatever that is, divinity, right? So if we go within ourselves to like communicate with that idea of divinity, so it's like our highest intentions, then if I'm praying for somebody, then I'm literally digging deep into that conversation between me and my highest intentions. So like I can pray into their lives by communicating with a relatable God and expressing like good intentions towards them. And that, you know, when you're saying like, I hope your business succeeds and stuff like that, like people don't hear that otherwise. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wow, somebody actually wants my business to succeed. It's so different than just like your average, like, oh man, are we all comparing each other to each other? Or like, you know, all these like insecure, weird thoughts we all have. It's just like, yeah. Well, it reminds me again, back to like the Jordan Peterson thing of just like how little encouragement we really need to succeed and thrive, and how little most people are actually given throughout their lives, you know?
And Jordan Peterson's awesome. He's my YouTube feed's always filled up with quotes or just interviews with him.
Yeah.
I wish he smiled more. He's just always like, he's just manic, you know, like
so serious.
Yeah,
that's
like,
funny.
He's always it just feels like he's scolding everybody he's talking to.
That's an interesting perspective, man. Like I've when I was like had like a personal collapse in 2017 and like broke up with my ex and started going to church, that it was like I studied basically everything that he put on YouTube. And like throughout his lectures and stuff, I was just like, man, this guy is just an excellent communicator. Like it's just, but I never really thought of, I guess it's like he's kind of serious at times, but
yeah, it's nice when he hasn't, I don't think he's been on Rogan's podcast for a while now, but it's nice when he goes on there, because he kind of like, it's hard to keep that formal feeling up for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's the place to just like relax and chat.
But I love it.
I think he's getting, like, he's doing a tour next year, so he just announced, so he's like getting more recovered from he had a pretty hectic last couple, which again, I was like, man, like, why didn't he just medicate with cannabis instead of going to these like benzo friggin' antidepressants or something?
And didn't he end up in Russia?
Yeah.
They put him into a medically induced coma to get through the withdrawal?
Yeah. And I'm like, and like that to me goes deep just into the whole, because I've always been like, I would say my first political action in a big way was like in 2018 when cannabis was being legalized. There was like this panel discussion, and I went there just out of curiosity, and I know a lot about it, and like the double PhD from Dr. Bob from Colorado, and like the biophysics of it all, like I get pretty deep into it, and I've nerded out on that more than I think most people have, and some people would say more than I should, but I don't care. I'm just like, I love the truth. But the point is, I was at that panel, and I just was like writing down all these like things. I'm like, did they just say that? Like, no way, you just said. And then I like got up to the microphone, and everybody that was there was like clapping to everything I was saying. Like they were just like, I was like stoked. I was like, oh, okay, like should I read another one? Like, because I just knew what I was talking about, and I guess that goes deep into just the idea of like where we are now with like forced medication and medical segregation. Because I look back and I'm like, wait, like medical segregation is not a new thing. Like we've been throwing people in jail for their choice of growing their own medicine for 100 years.
That's true.
So I'm like, how is that any different? But people are like, oh, well, it's just a drug that we made illegal and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, people, like the government has never reconciled that great and terrible tragedy of politics. And for me, when I go deep, you don't have to understand the cannabis curing cancer side of it to still respect the great tragedy of politics that cannabis prohibition was. But for me, like when I've looked into like the actual, literally the double PhD explains it all, but how cannabis cures cancer and why it's important, and it signals your body from sugar burning into fat burning mode, and it's like reduces.
I didn't know that.
That's what it does. We have endogenous cannabinoids, and so the plant itself like mimics this class of neurotransmitting oils that our body produces called endogenous cannabinoids. And anandamide is one where it's like the bliss molecule. It's like when you're running, you get it's tied in with endorphins, which are endogenous opiates. A lot of people don't know. Yeah, you know, those are endogenous opiates. We call them endorphin, just like morphine. But cannabinoids are separate and different in themselves, and they regulate cellular metabolism. So like I said, sugar burning or fat burning. So when you hear all this rave about ketosis and burning oil and stuff, like cannabis signals your body into that. So that's why it's so effective, because a lot of cancers can't burn anything but sugar. So yeah, like we were in Zimbabwe and we cured this Donald. He had like tumors on his lips and he was like going blind, and this dermatologist, like pigmentosa or whatever, he had cancer all over. We started juicing the leaves and giving him oil, and he's been making a pretty full recovery, restored his vision, melted these tumors off his face. And yeah, it goes deep with like Run from the Cure by Rick Simpson, who is a Nova Scotian guy. Yeah, so you've seen that. So it's like, yeah, like that to me is like, once we start to fully appreciate as a culture the fact that these same government institutions that are telling us what to do with our medicine now have been like promoting cancer and like literally creating criminals out of peaceful individuals.
Well, yeah, because there's no money in the cure. Money's in the treatment.
Exactly, right? I mean, run from the cure.
So many people will agree with that. Yet look at these vaccines, which aren't vaccines, and not realize that they are partaking in the exact same thing that they disagree with.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I could think of a few examples.
Well, I just don't want to be right about this, and it's not even me. I don't want all the doctors and nurses and scientists that have come forward jeopardizing their careers by doing so, and in some cases, in some countries, jeopardizing their freedom. I don't want them to be right, because if they're right, then that means that yes, the government has betrayed us, and that's a lot of work to take down a government, right? It really is. And you can't take down a government with the laws and legislation that they get to decide. That's the scary part.
That's why I think a lot, and have for quite a while, about secession.
Yeah, but then again, how do you do it? That's huge. It's monumental.
It is. It definitely is, right?
Hey, I mean, there's probably at least 41,000 people in Manitoba that would be up for that.
Absolutely.
Maybe 814,000 people in all of Canada.
I don't know where you're getting these figures from, but I mean, that's a small city at least.
Yeah, it is. Hey, it's a little bit. Isn't Winnipeg just around that?
Yeah, that'd be about the size of Winnipeg, yeah.
Yep.
So all we need is Winnipeg City, where we could just be ourselves.
We just need to decide where those 814,000 people are going to agree upon living, I guess.
Well, and that's what I think that, like, I could talk about like crypto and decentralized autonomous organizations and stuff, and it's like I believe that it's not about, we don't have to be in one place physically in order to be politically tied to a new nation.
Yeah, but strength in numbers.
Yeah. Of course, but it's like, even if we were spread across Canada but seceded, it'd still be like pockets of the nation that we're building, you know?
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess I don't think we need to be physically all moved to one city state to secede properly, because it starts at the individual level. And that's something I've seen a number of times. Like this dude Rob in the Paget family, he wrote a book, Graduating Life with Honors, and he like returned to the land after being like an IT guy for years and being depressed, and he built himself an earthship and like did a bunch of cultural work and got the name White Walking Feather from the local originals.
White Walking Feather.
Yeah, he's quite the story man, but his book Graduating Life with Honors goes through like the biblical law and the Canadian law of why he needed to secede, and he's just like sent in his letters and it's basically like, I'm not going to be part of your organization anymore. And
so he just went and lived in the bush.
Basically, yeah. But he also, I think, has done a number of things where he like would drive without a license and explain to the police if he got pulled over. Like.
And this is in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's since moved to Ontario, but
What's his name again?
Rob in the Page family.
Robin the Page family?
It's Rob Page, but he uses his own syntax where it's like Rob in the Page family. And I think there's like a point of that. He explains it because like no more corporate state name, but he's like going more to a traditional way of describing his.
Could be like Rob of Clan Page.
Basically, yeah.
I've always liked that. I don't know. I'm old school. I'm like romantic about old times. I know. I feel like I was born in the wrong time, but I'd be at a disadvantage if I wasn't born in this time.
Oh yeah, glasses and knowing about vitamin C and
all that stuff. I always think about that, like, you know, if one day you walked out your door and you like somehow walked into the past 3,000 years.
Oh man.
What could you bring to that era in terms of knowledge and instruction? And I always think, and I'm like, man, I can't even start a fire without a match.
You'd be like, guys, I was driving these big machines. Like,
I'm like, it works. Trust me. I've seen it on YouTube. What's YouTube?
Right? But no, it'd be funny because like you'd be like, man, you'd be trying to explain trains to people.
Yeah.
You'd be like, dude, I was like, and you'd be like, well, why don't you build one? You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, just everything. Yeah, we have these things called cell phones. They're smartphones. And I can talk to a person on the other side of the planet. They're like, what do you mean the other side of the planet? Well, the world is round. No, it's not. I'm like, yeah, I can prove it. Okay, prove it.
Hold on, let me get my... Where's
no
my
service.
YouTube video?
Yeah. Well, can you build one of these things? No. But then there's the periodic table of elements. Okay, what are those? Oxygen, hydrogen... Like I'm just so full of useless information. It feels like.
Yeah.
Ask me to quote a movie. I can quote a movie.
That's funny. Well, that's actually where, like, we were talking about information that.
I know biology. I know like human physiology a little, like, just out of interest of working out and diet, like nutrition and stuff like that. I suppose I could be useful in that way. Don't eat that. Why?
Eat that mushroom. Why?
Oh, even that. Like,
my buddy Adam is into mycology. He like goes mushroom hunting. That's pretty cool.
Purpose Produce on Instagram, I think he is. Another guy I work with, Dan. He has some knowledge in that too.
Yeah, I think the Perps Produce or whatever, I've seen them at a local market one time, and then I saw them at a rally too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I've seen your mushrooms at the market.
Yep, another freedom fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I was at a Prohibition ping pong last night.
Prohibition ping pong?
Yeah, they didn't call it that. It was freedom fighter ping pong, but
nice.
Yeah, it was good.
That's awesome. Yeah, we just need to keep coming together as much as possible. We're doing a bonfire at Springs tomorrow night.
Oh, on Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you're totally welcome. Just like at the front doors.
Cool. A bonfire at the front doors of Springs.
Yep. They've got like pits there, and then they have like a little, basically unlimited wood.
Huh.
So
we'll see. My daughter has gymnastics till 7:45.
Oh yeah.
The son's going to bed at right around that time too. So.
Yeah, man. The family. That's why I was like, I was just excited that you were coming by because I was like, man, I respect that you have like a family, and you know, it's probably like your whole family is like, where's Dad?
Well, like I said, like I'm staying at the in-laws.
Oh yeah.
They're out in Mexico. They escaped Canada on the 29th or 28th.
Ooh, right at the cusp.
Yeah, right at the cusp. Yeah, they always go down to Mexico, and they stay for 3 months ish. They rent a condo and just live it up. And honestly, it probably extends their lives, right? Because they're down there and they're closer to the meridian?
The equator?
The equator. Meridian. Why did I think meridian?
That's the other way, I think.
Yeah.
The Greenwich Meridian would be like... Anyways.
But yeah, so closer to the equator, so they're actually getting vitamin D from the sun down there.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, vitamin D,
Essential nutrient.
essential, and 85% of so-called deaths from the vid are vitamin D deficient.
Yeah, it's basically just like, no, man. I talk about that all the time. Like, most disease is just because you don't have the right nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, extend their life, and definitely it's a good thing.
Well, that's what makes me so angry. It's like the simple solution to this, maybe not for everybody, but for majority of the 0.2% that don't survive, is eat what we just ate.
Yeah, just like natural, unprocessed food.
Yeah.
With no preservatives.
Keep it as low process as possible. Reduce your carbohydrate intakes, right?
Mhm.
Reduce your calories.
Yeah.
Lift that thing. Get outside, walk, breathe fresh air, meet people. You know, and like the apartment building we're working on right now is a bunch of very elderly people. And it's funny because so many of them want to talk. Just talk and talk and talk. And in the forefront of your head, you're like, oh, gotta get out of here. Gotta go to the next apartment. But then I keep telling the guys, I'm like, they're starved for socialization. Like they've been lacking that. One lady told us that if it wasn't for the cat that she got right before the pandemic began, she might not have made it, just because of that lack of companionship.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Sad.
It is. It's been the worst part of this pandemic is the mental health from the lockdowns and the fear. And the government not saying, just take vitamin D. Like man, like I research on it, I'm like, man, like we're so deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah.
And all we need is like maybe like 2,000 to 3,000 international units every day.
Yeah.
And like,
I use.
Yeah, and nobody friggin' has been talking about that. Like there should be a billboard that just says like, take your vitamin D every day, especially in the winter.
I told you I got it, eh? Like the Rona.
Oh yeah.
I ended up getting it.
Yeah, like a week or two ago.
I lost. It was around the 9th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The 9th.
Did you do a test?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did too, but I didn't need them. The only reason I did them near the end to see, and it wasn't like touch my eyeball through my nose.
Yeah, I think
You
there's other ones that are.
Yeah, it's just around the edges or a little bit inside. But anyways, I had it. Like I lost my sense of smell and taste.
Oh, okay.
Like clear, I could breathe. It was just like, it was gone. It was the weirdest thing. Stuffing my head in a coffee can, couldn't smell it.
Wow,
Like,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Never. It's so weird, and that was the worst part.
Yeah.
It was seriously, for me, it was the worst part.
Yeah. Like I can't taste my food.
I can't taste anything.
I'm still
and
living.
My sense of smell is so sensitive. It's really like, it's almost like I can smell somebody at the door before they knock that. No, it's not that good. But I'm always, do you smell that? No. Oh, that's that. And then they're like, holy crap, that's that. Whatever.
Yeah.
So not having that was really annoying, but
But it came back?
it came back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, came back, but I was still taking. I started taking more vitamin D, quercetin, however you say it,
Yeah.
and then zinc, and then I actually got some ivermectin.
Okay, yeah.
I was already improving, but I just took it anyways.
It's so safe.
Yeah, some friends gave it to me. I don't know if I should say who gave it to me.
Yeah.
I think it's a problem.
Let's keep that private.
Yeah.
I've been taking NAC. Have you heard of that one?
NAC?
Yeah.
I have. I don't know anything about it though.
That one's interesting because my double PhD friend there, at the start of the pandemic, he like understands how these things work on a cellular level.
Okay.
So he was like, "Oh, we should just take NAC and potentially CBD oil." And NAC is it somehow like locks in with the ACE2 receptor, so it like blocks out the corona from getting in there,
Mm.
but it also recharges glutathione, which is like the master antioxidant. So it's just all around a good, safe thing to
I
use.
think somebody told me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much information out there now, and I tell everybody, it's only going to get better for us because there's only going to be more and more data that comes out. Again, like there was something I shared that somebody else posted on YouTube, and it was like, oh my God, a revelation for some people that people who don't have a lot of adipose tissue, fat, visceral or visible, they are actually more likely to get it, more likely to obviously suffer from any complications, and also more likely to transmit it.
If you have fat,
If you're fat, if you're obese, if you're out of shape, whatever.
it's also your risk. You need more vitamin D
Yeah.
if you're yeah.
Yeah, so it's very frustrating because we're in such a I don't know, can't be offensive, politically correct time, right? And I've had friends unfriend me on Facebook for fat shaming, and I'm like, I'm not fat shaming. I'm trying to help you. People, you look back into the 1950s, into the black and white videos of kids in gym.
Yeah.
They all have six packs.
Yeah, like everyone.
They're all in shape.
Yeah.
Like,
Or skinny, but like
yeah,
like maybe too skinny, but like nobody was overweight in the same capacity.
and again, I'm not trying to shame people or be offensive. I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
You are not healthy if you are overweight, or not. You're not as healthy as you could be.
Oh yeah, and you're
Right.
at risk for so many diseases.
It goes up.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked, like, obviously beforehand, I told you I'm primarily carnivore. And there have been studies that have now come out, and I believe it was from Harvard. It's a Harvard study that showed cessation of symptoms for diabetics, improvement for diabetics in terms of not even relying on their medicine,
Yeah.
and outright elimination of their diabetes in some cases.
By eating carnivore.
By eating carnivore.
Yeah, yeah. And it has to do with, in my opinion, like the fat burning side of things and the sugar burning.
Yeah, it's the sugar.
Yeah.
Like
You force your body to go into fat burning and just have, and then also like nuts and avocado and eggs and meat, like they're all like where life concentrates the nutrients.
Yeah.
So you're just getting more and more nutrients for less calories. I remember this guy painted his house and he was a diabetic and he healed himself by literally just eating high quality bacon.
Yeah.
That was it. He was just like, hey, I'm just gonna eat bacon from now on. He's just like mostly eats bacon. And then he gave me this like chocolate like bark that he made himself.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like no sugar at all, just like dark chocolate with
Yeah.
nuts in it. And it was just like but it was good. It was good.
Do you know what? Next time you have really dark chocolate, try some before you drink your beer. Like really bitter dark chocolate. That stuff will taste like apple juice.
All right. Well, it already tastes like apple juice. So I'll have to try that out. Yeah, yeah. What were we talking about there? About the eating it was the bark and then the. I was just going to go on a rant. Carnivore and diet and obesity.
I was just going to talk about how this is how we are supposed to eat. Like you can make things really tasty, but the stuff that comes out of the supermarket that is like automatically tasty, that's a high level of processing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, unless it's fruit, right? You can get away with sweet with fruit and it tastes great already.
Well, I thought you said free for a second. I was like, yeah, I'm all on board with that.
Oh yeah,
free
free's
food.
good too. Free's good too.
But yeah, fruit like is a healthier sugar.
I mean it's hard to OD on fruit, right? Like when you eat fruit, you get a lot of other nutrients and minerals and vitamins out of it.
Water and fiber as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it fills you up a little bit more, right? As opposed to like sitting down and eating a Toblerone.
Right.
Right? Like don't get me wrong, I love Toblerones. I'm a chocolate fiend. I am.
Yeah.
But But yeah, you eat a chocolate bar compared to a couple apples, you're going to feel more full after the couple apples.
Yeah.
So therefore, it is kind of better for you because that means that you're less likely to consume more calories.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely still sugar and there's fructose and it's like you can get, I don't know. I remember this one guy who was like, he was talking about being a fruitarian or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, hey, you could eat anything. You could, but he was like, man, I just eat, like, he was showing me these videos, and these guys were just like, yeah, I'll just, like, eat fruit all day, like, tons of it. And I'm like, yeah, that's why, because there's so little protein that you need so much.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and I was like, you need protein, man. And he's like, protein's a myth. And I'm just like,
God. You don't know how to think. There's, yes, I love the comparison between us and gorillas.
Okay.
Like, well, just out of the audacity, the ignorance of it, that, oh, gorillas just eat bamboo or whatever they eat, right? They eat leaves, look how muscular they are. It's like, yeah, because they have this, they're missing this thing that we have that stops us from gaining that much muscle without requiring, like, a super increase in muscular stimulation through hypertrophy. And like these, they just grow and grow and grow because they're missing this thing. We're not the same. We're cousins to them, evolutionarily, if you believe in that. But we are
tracking.
Not, we're not gorillas. like when people say we came from it, like apes, it's like, no, we didn't come from the apes. According to evolutionary biology, we branched off, right?
Right.
That's according.
And we've developed from there on our own. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's also just the difference in digestion, and that's why gorillas have huge stomachs too, because they're they're not evolved to cook and ferment, whereas like we used our brain to figure out cooking. So that we don't have to have this huge stomach, so we can put more towards the brain and like then just cycle forward. And that's why we like ferment things and cook things, because we don't want to have to sit there and have our stomachs digesting it. We don't have the same enzymes in our stomachs either from that.
Even if you eat too much uncooked greens, like if you're just eating nonstop green, you can develop a thyroid issue.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like bloating, but thyroid. Would like with hormones and stuff, I guess it would imbalance. So that's why I pretty much try to eat like not even too much nuts or too much salad. I like having that. I think it's important, but I usually like think about meat or eggs and like how much of that am I eating. Like
I eat a lot of eggs, a lot of meat.
Yeah, me too, right? It's just like it just makes me feel good and feel full, and then like it's the right thing to do.
It's a different kind of full though, compared to like if you were to eat a bowl of rice, right? Deep fried rice. When I eat like a bunch of steak or a bunch of eggs, like I'm content.
Yeah.
I'm not like stuffed and I can't do anything and I have to go lay down on the couch.
Right.
I'm just content. And then I, can get up and continue working or whatever it is I'm doing.
It's so much healthier. Oh. I 100% agree, and it's like, man, like that's I'll have oatmeal and like plant protein and stuff in the morning, and oats are really good, and somehow like oats and onions and garlic have like some kind of thing tied in with N-acetylcysteine or whatever, like NAC, so like helps recharge your glutathione, which like I just remember reading that. It's like if you didn't want to take NAC as a supplement, just eat more oats and onions and garlic. And I was like, oh, I already do eat a lot of oats and onions and garlic. That's good. But
we got a lot of oats in our pantry, just because every time we go to the grocery store, I buy another bag, just in case.
Oh, we must be out of these.
Just in case. No, we're stockpiling.
Well, see, I do that with like beans and stuff too, because I'm just like, hey, why not have a bunch of dried food and like canned food and stuff.
Yeah, beans, like they're kind of a superfood.
Yeah.
Because they contain everything, right?
Yeah.
Obviously not, enough for my purposes to continue, maintaining my muscle, but in terms of an emergency situation and you just need nutrients and you need the protein, the fat, the carbs, they're good to go.
Yeah, well, and I remember seeing that it's like there was these blue zones where people lived longest, and a part of like one of the trends that they discovered was that people would eat a lot of beans.
Really?
And it's like, yeah, like legumes, like they often will have omega-3s, and then they have lots of protein and iron, but they also are high in fiber. So it's just like everything that your body needs to stay clean and fresh and full, and actually make blood too. So okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. Like I'll supplement some meat sometimes with some beans, because yeah, a magical fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I like refried beans. I really like refried beans. I've been wanting to make a chili for a while now. That's something I kind of miss eating this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't really make. I started doing it last March. Just went straight carnivore for like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And it was, again, kind of pretty strict compared to how I was eating before. Kind of went back to weighing my food out back when I did bodybuilding. And so I went strict, and I went from 243 to 209 in 2 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you lost like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that muscle or was it fat?
Oh no, I kept all my strength.
Yeah.
So I lost primarily fat.
Yeah.
And I felt really good.
Yeah. That's cool.
And what I noticed was really funny is because I was eating a lot of beef, right? I was eating 2 to 3 pounds of beef a day.
Oh wow.
And people are like, didn't you get sick of that? And I was thinking, don't you, like, yeah, why wouldn't I get sick of that? But that wasn't the case. In fact, it was the other way around. So when you rely on a lot of carbohydrates as your main source of calories, you also develop bacteria in your gut that relies on you consuming carbs.
Yeah.
So when you start to, and specifically sugar, I think, and this is not beneficial bacteria. So when you stop consuming carbohydrates, the bacteria starts to die out. So they send signals to your brain to crave things, to supply them with what they need to survive.
Yeah.
But eventually they do die, right? This bacteria, you rid it.
Yeah, you shift the
gut
bacteria.
Biome. Yeah. And eventually those cravings are gone, right? You look at stuff and you're just like, that's just stuff, right? The things that you would usually crave, you just look at it like, I just don't feel any pull to it.
Yeah, whereas before you would have been like, oh, I want to eat that bowl of rice.
Yeah.
Now you're just like, I'll go back to my steak.
And then when I found out, what I found ended up happening was I was craving more beef. Like I would actually almost salivate when I was cooking my steaks.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't wait to eat this.
Right? It's just like, I don't know, man, it's a primal, but it's like I don't know, it's like what we just ate here with like fried onions and mushrooms, and it's like, man, I can eat that literally all the time.
Then do it. Eating steak every day is costly.
It does cost, but
it is.
I try to have a good, I try to base my eating on meat, and sometimes it is chicken. It's also good for my body, but yeah, like meat, especially grass-fed, like really good quality beef is expensive. So
I actually might have a hookup for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, through a friend. He texted me the other day about getting a cow because I want to get a half a cow.
We got a hookup too in Freedom Hall.
Oh yeah.
I think they're actually looking at slaughtering pretty soon.
Okay.
So yeah.
How much per pound?
Like $6 or $6.50.
Might be able to do better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, good. That's awesome, man. We need all the connections we can.
They're Hutter rights.
Okay.
So they said in the text he sent me the chat, said it's not as good as the feed cows, the ones that they feed to slaughter, right? It's a pasture cow. It's like, so we read up on it. We're like, holy crap, that's what we want. We want the pasteurized cow, the one that eats the pasture.
The grass.
That's grass-fed.
Yeah.
So when he was saying it's not as good, he's saying it's not as marbled. It's not marbled because it's not fed all the feed.
So it's just meat more than fat.
Yeah, it's the way the cow's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're kind of lucking out here.
Yeah. Don't tell them that. That's the better one.
Yeah. Oh darn. But it is, what your food eats dictates, how good it is. Obviously, we buy eggs from everybody around us. We haven't bought eggs from the supermarket in so long.
That's good. I unfortunately buy too much superstore eggs, and I'm looking at getting a few more, but yeah, I'm like also open to that. If you ever need to sell some eggs, I'll buy them.
if we get chickens, that's the thing. Like when we moved out to where we are now, to just between LaBroca and Steinbach, I was like, let's get some chickens. But then everybody had chickens around us. I'm like, well, let's just buy the chickens, buy the eggs from the chickens, or the people who have chickens. But I eat, like I said, I eat a lot of eggs too. Like I'll work out and then I'll have 4 to 5 eggs after the workout.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, I blend them up. I got this from Dave Jones from Monstrosity Burger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do this now too. So I'll have my coffee after a workout and blend it up in the coffee, scoop protein powder, blend it up. It's wonderful.
Oh, man.
But I boil the coffee. Oh, what's going on?
I just got to take a leak.
Oh.
I'm like, pause for a second here.
Pause. All right.
Back on from break. Yeah, you're telling me about your after workout.
Oh yeah, just 5 eggs, scoop protein powder. I boil the coffee so that the eggs aren't like straight raw. Everybody always thinks like, oh, you just drink raw eggs.
So wait, coffee, protein powder, and eggs?
Yeah.
All in one drink?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a chocolate protein powder, so it just tastes like a worm.
Mocha?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Like a mocha. The eggs just give it a creaminess.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. I might have to try that. Yeah. I don't know.
Hashtag Dave Jones.
Yeah.
Burger.
So you boil the coffee, so it's already made, and then you
Then I heat it up in the microwave. I boil it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's really hot when it goes in.
So it kind of cooks the eggs a bit.
A little bit, I guess, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
You got to do it that way, because if you don't, if you you have the coffee with the pot, pour it in there, blend it up, pour it in the rest, and then you take a sip and you're like, oh, it's too warm. Don't put it in the microwave, because then it will cook the eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll turn half of it into just a loaf of egg protein that tastes disgusting.
I'm guessing you've been there and done that.
Been there, yeah.
It's like, oh, this is kind of gross. Yeah, oh man.
And a waste. I hate wasting food.
Mm-hmm.
Hate it. Always done.
Yeah. Yeah, I started hitting the gym again too recently, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm constantly eating food and constantly eating clean, protein heavy food.
You don't have to eat constantly though. This is a misconception and that I fell for as well. In fact, it's not detrimental. It's not conducive to the aging process.
Oh yeah.
So when your stomach is continuously digesting food, like mine was when I was doing bodybuilding, was eating every 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
It actually ages you faster.
Yeah.
Is what they've found.
Yeah, which is like part of why I think it's important to fast. But yeah, it's.
Weren't you saying you did a fast, like a 3-day fast or 7-day fast or something like that?
Well, I did a 5-day fast probably in like 2018 or 2019. Yeah, that was the longest I ever went without food.
Just water, eh?
Yeah, just water. Yeah, it was good. I've done a number of 3-day fasts throughout my life, and maybe I should do one again soon. Actually, it would probably be a good idea. But yeah, I think it's just that I'm used to actually not eating probably as much as I should, just being like skinny. Like that's part of why I'd be so skinny. But and I like if I was in my shadow self and like not taking care of myself properly, I tend towards not eating enough. Whereas other people, if they're not taking care of, they'll just like eat too much. So that's the struggle for me, is just to make sure, like, if I do work out and I wreck my muscles, like before I go to bed, I'll want to have at least something, like I need to have some kind of after workout meal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's definitely, yeah, I think it's important to take a break, and that's also why I'll switch to cut mode at some point, and then I'll like have my muscles bigger, but I'll also cut fat and be on a bit of a deficit for a bit.
Yeah, cutting's no fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Unless
like,
you're doing it the carnivore way.
yeah. Well, that's actually true, man. Like, I'll definitely. You have another beer in there?
That's it, man.
Oh, okay.
We drank them all.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I had like 2 beers. It's the right amount of beer.
Yeah. I brought. Went out last night, like I said, for Prohibition ping pong, and talking about fasting.
Yeah.
Which is not, it's not really common for most people. They were talking about coffee enemas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have you heard about these?
Yeah.
I now know 2 people who do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty healthy for you, but
again, I think it's a waste of coffee.
I'm pretty sure like that's an outdoor. You don't go in through the outdoor, but that's just maybe my primitive mind.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah. That reminds me of a song by Sons of Butcher. Yeah. In Through the Outdoor.
Well, it's actually a Led Zeppelin album, I think, too.
Through the Outdoor?
In Through the Outdoor, yeah.
In Through the Outdoor is a Zeppelin album.
One of their last ones, yeah. Right before Coda, I think.
Well, to be clarified, at the beginning of the song by Sons of Butcher, they go, "This song's about anal."
At no point in the album by Led Zeppelin did I think that was about anal. There's like the Candy Store Rock, which is talking about like eating a girl out.
Oh wow, I didn't know that one.
Oh yeah, I was a huge Zeppelin fan. I like read their books, and yeah, I just found them fascinating. I looked like Robert Plant when I was a teenager. I had like long hair and just like long messy hair, and I was total hippie.
I was so disappointed when I saw him. I saw him once. The Trues opened up for him.
Okay.
And they killed it.
For Robert Plant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then because that's the lead singer, Robert Plant.
Yeah, of Zeppelin, yeah.
Yeah.
And he did his own solo stuff after.
He did, and that's when he came to Winnipeg, and he was touring with some like folky girl, I guess. I can't remember her name. And I was excited for like Led Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah.
And he didn't play any Led Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, he did a rendition of that song by Jimi Hendrix, Who Shot the Sheriff, I think.
Oh, okay.
It sucked. I thought it sucked.
He only had like one song. I can't even remember it, but there was like one song that was a bit of a hit after he left Led Zeppelin. But yeah. Apparently, I used to think that Jimmy Page was kind of the asshole and that Robert Plant was the cool guy, but it's actually the opposite.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just funny.
Very often, the frontmen, the lead singers of bands, tend to be the dickheads.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at Creed.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know much about them.
Scott Stapp, he went a little off the deep end. James Hetfield, he's a bit of a douche.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know him personally, so none of these guys personally, but just looks like the frontmen are always the ones who are running the show and kind of like, because they're the face.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe it gets to their head.
Yeah, I think it does.
You know what I want to see is I want to see an interview of Zach from Rage.
Oh, okay.
Because, man, it would be so awesome to be somewhere where he is and go, hey, Rage for the Machine. Because they're not Rage Against anymore.
No, they're Rage for.
Yeah. They're asking for vaccine status to enter their concerts. Like, they're calling for, I don't know if they were calling for it, but they were upset with the verdict on Kyle Rittenhouse.
No.
Like, there's video footage. The kid was clearly defending himself.
Yeah, he's a freaking hero. He's more of a hero than a lot of the police officers.
Yeah, he killed a pedophile in self-defense.
Yeah, he's like, bro. He's like crying. He's like, I can't believe what I did. You're just like, dude, good shot.
Oh man, yeah. At the with some friends there, they're like, 3 shots for Kyle Rittenhouse. Cha cha cha.
Yeah, at least they work.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about PPC and where you see that going.
So they want to ramp up in January, and they were talking about establishing an EDA separate from Winnipeg North.
Okay.
And I think there's another riding that's a part of that EDA. Just have like Kildone and St. Paul as their own EDA. And maybe I'll put that out to the volunteers. I mean, it makes sense to, who helped us in the campaign. I'm really, as long as Communist Canada permits another election, I think that the PPC stand a very good chance of getting seats and doing quite well. I mean, especially they're giving us all this time to show everybody that we were right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something I was actually considering getting more involved in. As much as I'm kind of like a secessionist and like still kind of on the fence a bit of whether I believe that the current political system could even get reworked.
If you could save the family without the parents having to divorce, like, why not try? Right? It's maybe an oversimplification of it, but yeah. This is our home. This is our country. I'd like to keep it the way it was.
I'd like to believe in the system being able to, and that's why I think it's almost like a cultural thing, because with the right cultural media and education, I think that, yeah, like there's a conservative resurgence possible.
Well, we need a cultural, it's going to be a cultural revolution. It's,
whether it's within the same government or not, I'm not sure, but I just feel like if I was potentially to get involved in PPC, that like I'm realizing that I'm actually got a knack for public speaking.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, at the UW.
Yeah, oh, that one.
Yeah.
But have you seen my other one where I have my art with me?
No, I did not see that.
That's the October 30th one. I'll have to link you that.
Oh.
So that was like an actual speech, and I had more written, and I have it the full like 15 minutes on my YouTube. And it's basically just the 3 concepts of the new Renaissance, the tyranny immune system, and Ubuntu, or the ennoblement of the individual. So just kind of talking about those 3 concepts and how, like, yeah, we're in a new Renaissance. We've invented the printing press of printing presses, which is the internet. So we have the encyclopedia of encyclopedias at our fingertips. And then we also have cryptocurrency and stuff. And then, yeah, and just like the tyranny immune system that we are as people who are like awake and aware and doing our own research, but also standing up for what's right. That's like the same thing as when a COVID virus comes in, and then slowly this immune system gets together and defeats it, right? But then also Ubuntu is the 3rd principle there, which is just the ennoblement of the individual. Ubuntu is like this African tribal way of organizing society, which we can get deep into that, but the point is that the word itself means I am because we are. So it's like very much about like respecting the fact that we cannot fully accomplish ourselves or fully pursue the hero's journey without each other. Like, we need each other to become the best person that we can be. So it's just kind of, yeah, that yeah, but I was surprised that I was like, oh, I can actually like speak pretty well like in front of a bunch of people and get people going. And yeah, you saw me at University of Winnipeg. I was just like came up with some chants that I was just like, yeah, like people need a little more energy right now.
Did that start during the marches, where you started to get more comfortable with
The
that?
first I look back was that panel with the cannabis stuff in
Okay.
2018. But then more recently it was in the summer. I think I went to some rallies in the spring and stuff, and yeah, you saw me with my art and stuff. But in the summer I wrote something on Facebook, and Todd was like, "Yo, man, like, hey, come on this show tonight." So I went on like a panel discussion with like Lynn and Todd and Cody Kuntz from Saskatchewan, and just like a bunch of people. And I was like, yeah. And then I heard of this like Clandaboid meetup or whatever, and so I went out to there, and it was just like, yeah, there was like I had like 5 minutes of speaking there.
Oh, nice.
So I was just like, yeah, put
Must
me
have
in.
been the first. I thought I was at the first one. Which one did you go to?
I couldn't. It was a second or third. I couldn't
Okay.
tell you.
But I wasn't there.
I guess not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing you there. Yeah, but that was like mid-August or so.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, and then all of a sudden I like the first HSC rally that I went to. I like went and grabbed the megaphone from somebody because I was just like, we need more of this, and like I was just like, my body, my choice, no vax pass. And just getting people going, man. Like,
Yeah.
just get them engaged. So, yeah. Then I just always had a megaphone with me. So,
Yeah, you and Marco were competing there. Have you met Marco?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was the guy who was with me, and we were just jiving. Like he came up with some really good chants too. I think.
He does like the soccer stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, Mr. Rusin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really good too.
You know, was it Rusin is lying?
Mm.
Pallister's flying, you know, down to Costa Rica. I don't know. I can't remember it exactly, but he has some good ones.
Yeah, he came up with some really creative stuff. Yeah, then I just got that speaking part at on October 30th, and I was like, yeah, I think I could do this more. I think I should do this more.
Should. So, in what capacity are you talking about? Are you talking about running as a candidate in a riding?
Yeah, because like yeah, that's something like I could definitely see myself going door to door, and I used to do that in painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really good at that. I'd go door to door and sell paint jobs. But now it'd be like, and I've always thought of myself as a politician, but I didn't like the political system as it was. So that's why I was like kind of outside the system.
Well, you're very intelligent and well-spoken and
Oh, thanks.
knowledgeable. Like there's those three things. I don't know if I check all the boxes.
Yeah, you do.
I have experience. I know I have experience, and my intentions, I know are good, are righteous. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we definitely need more people. Like there was a couple paper candidates that I feel were paper candidates.
Paper candidates?
Yeah, just names
Oh,
on
okay,
the
yeah.
ballot.
Yeah.
And I know that we have a possible candidate in Transcona and Elmwood,
Okay.
and they're very strong,
Mm-hmm.
very well spoken, should have been the candidate last time, in my opinion.
Mm.
But they didn't know to apply. That was the only thing.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if because I think he would be Winnipeg Centre where Bavney was running, right?
See, I don't know.
Yeah. Who was on your ballot?
Chase.
Oh, Chase.
Yeah, I think he was for this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super young.
Yeah, and good on him for doing what he
Yeah.
was doing at such a young age too.
I don't think I sent more than like 5 words to him.
Yeah, I tried to engage with
Yeah.
them, and we're all just trying to grow and become
Mhm.
better than we were yesterday. But yeah, that's where I know Rick Dick. I don't know if you met him, but he's looking at running.
I don't know him. No, Rick Dick. Maybe I do. I just if I saw.
You
his
know
face.
Albert,
Albert.
like from Saudi Arabia. He was like president.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a good friend of mine. I've known him for.
Yeah,
a
he's
number of years.
he's part of that white supremacist group. The
Yeah, he's Winnipeg's
the
only
Proud
black
Boys.
white
Like
supremacist.
I love that. I love how they they pull this BS like Proud Boys are white supremacists. Like somebody put that up on Instagram. I'm like, you guys aren't very smart. You have in this picture that you allege is the Proud Boys, that you allege is white supremacists. You have two black people in this picture. Like you're terrible at this.
It's like, oh well, they're white supremacists too, even though they're black.
Yeah, they don't know they're black. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they don't. They're,
oh my God.
They're brainwashed. That's yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just heard on, again, going to Rogan's podcast, whoever it was that was running in the election for California was a black guy. And
Larry Elder, I think?
Yes, and there was an article put out saying he is the black face of white supremacy. Like,
how disconnected from reality do you have to be? Like
that, unless you're talking about a skit from a Dave Chappelle show, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's a blind black man that doesn't know he's black and he's part of the KKK. Like
he's like, what? I thought this was a church group.
Like this is not. This can't be reality. Mm-hmm. This is crazy.
Well, I mean, man, that's like, it's the 2 + 2 = 5 thing, right? It's just people have lost touch with reality. Yeah, and that's what I see when I see people walking out with their face masks on and like in the gym and stuff. And I'm trying to be like courteous and just be like, no, don't think hateful thoughts. But I'm like, stop wearing the tinfoil hat already. Like, we're done with the pandemic playhouse.
No, but they think we are the tinfoil hat wearers,
right?
And I do have a hat that says tinfoil. It's good though. It's good though. Yeah, I don't know when this is gonna end. I hope soon. It's very frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, it's a weird time though, because it's like at the same time for me I feel it's like been some of the most fruitful months of my life.
Yes, actually that's true.
Yeah, because it's like, man, like, yeah, like when there's a fire, you just see everybody come together to put out the fire. And I think that's what I've been seeing, like whether it's from the rallies and people don't understand like why, and some people who are like Christians and they're like, oh, I don't get into politics, and I'm like, you just lobotomized yourself.
Everybody should be into politics, because whether you believe it or not, politics governs our lives.
Yeah,
it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, thinking that we've been conditioned. There's two things you don't talk about, at Christmas or family convention. You don't talk about religion and politics. It's like, why? Nothing should be off the table to talk about.
Absolutely.
Everything, we should be able to talk about everything.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah.
It's definitely, when people would say that as a teenager, I was like, okay, so talk about religion and politics is what I get out of that. It's like, why? Because you're just an asshole? No, it's because I want to think. Like,
it's funny though, because the same people who say that are going to be the same people who bring up religion or politics. Same with COVID.
Yeah.
Right? You get together with friends and family that you don't directly see eye to eye with. They're like, I don't want to hear a thing about COVID. Okay. And then 10 minutes in, they're talking about COVID. Why? Because before they said that, they didn't realize that that's all there's to talk about.
Yeah. It's the big ticket item, that's for sure. I mean, but I would say is that like religion and politics should be separated in institution.
Yes.
But they meet in the individual.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it, yeah.
Yeah, like how else would people think about these things? Like, you should be religious and you should be political, and even if you're a-religious, you should still have some kind of charitable, like, community conscious institution that you're a part of. And yeah, so I just think it's like, yeah, it's profoundly in the individual that these ideas merge, but should definitely be separated in the institutions.
Yeah, people find their own way to those two things.
Yeah, and that's why I would often be like going to rallying and then going to church on Sundays, because it's like I've got my political expression and then my religious expression.
So are you volunteering at Springs?
Not yet. I signed up and I was going to on Sunday, but I slept in.
Oh.
And then I was like, I kind of was also just like, honestly, it was like a bit of a thing where I'm like, okay, if I go all the way there and then they just want me to wear a mask and then I have to go home, that's gonna suck. Because I'm like, I'm wearing a mask to do this. So I'm just like,
just ask to do the things outside, I guess. Right?
Yeah,
you could be outside and just guiding traffic, and
I don't want to do that.
I don't think all of them wear them though.
Yeah, I know, right? And so I don't know. They, at least that's like what they say is like you should be wearing a mask, or like you have to have a written exemption. So, anyways, I did get my record check done again because I was volunteering at Anchor Point, my other church before, and yeah. But I think I might end up going to like 2 or 3 services on Sunday at different churches. Just because that's, I don't know, it's like I really like Sunday, and there's a lot of awesome people, and it's like different messages and communicating with God. And
there's other churches that aren't like masked Nazis.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't wear a mask anymore anywhere I go.
Yeah. Frig's Meat, by the way.
Frig's Meat?
That's where I got the steaks from. They're a little bit out of the way. Yeah, North Perimeter there, but yeah, it was awesome.
That's cool. I've been super lazy though, just ordering my groceries from Instacart from Superstore. So I'm just like, I could just stay home and like do stuff that I need to do. But
how much extra did you pay for that?
It's like $10 or $15 depending on. Yeah, I usually give like a 10% tip. So if I order like $100, then it's like maybe 115.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too bad, especially when you consider the gas and then the time. It's like, yeah, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably a luxury, but I like it.
Well, and you're also saving yourself the hassle of just going down there. Like, don't get me wrong, that's what I deal with almost every day, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, well, you're a big guy, you can go in there, you don't have to wear a mask. Like, I don't like doing it. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's confrontational.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I know I probably should almost go shopping just to push that envelope, but
that's what I come to the realization of. It's like, no, I gotta show my face.
Yeah.
I have to show people that they can show their face.
Yeah. Well, we did at the Legion. We went to the Legion like last Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
And we collected donations for poppies from Remembrance Day, and then we went to Legion, and like it was definitely out of good faith because we're there giving them like $300. Like we're giving them the donations. And we're just like, no, we just want to sit down and like have a drink here, peacefully protesting the mandates and the illegal nature of them. And yeah, like the president like puts on his mask, and it's like like everyone's sitting and nobody else is wearing a mask, but because we're standing without our masks, it's like it was so ridiculous. So so we're looking at our group is looking at what that means to push the envelope and like actually do that kind of citizen journalism as well. So yeah, I should show you the clip for that. I'll send you a link to it.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So lots of things on the go, but hey, we should call it here.
Yeah.
And
what was that, 2 hours?
Almost.
Look at that.
We got a good chat in, man. That was an hour and 35 minutes total.